Thanks for joining Federal Marketing Insights. My guest today is Monique Robinson, Principal Field Marketing Manager, Public Sector at Informatica. In our final segment, we'll talk about the challenges and take a look at the future of federal marketing. And there's a lot going on. So we've talked about all kinds of things that are going on in federal marketing today. So we'll look at a little bit about disruptive technologies and what's going on in the future. So kind of in summarizing your biggest challenges, Monique, what are you seeing as the biggest challenges of a federal marketer?
I think it's overcoming all of the noise that is out there and rising above your competition. I think everybody is sending emails and having events, and now more people are becoming engaged in social media. So for me, I think the biggest challenge is really understanding where a customer is, right? What are they using? What attracts them to your products and services? I have to understand, the maturity level of a customer, right? And we use the term, digital natives and digital never-bees, right? And so there are a number of people that are digital never-bees, and how you continue to outreach to them, talk to them, and market your products and services. So it's really how you reach the masses with a clear, concise message.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because differentiating yourself, we often, when we talk to our clients, we say, if you stripped your name off the message, does your message sound like everybody else? And many times it does, and I think that's kind of a good filter to go through of how are we differentiating ourselves. How would you say you can be different and separate your message?
Do you mind if I use that? I like that.
Do you like that?
I do.
Take
like that. Beautiful, I will.
Absolutely. So that's definitely a big challenge, because all of, especially the acronyms we use in federal marketing, it can sound mundane, and it definitely falls into the fabric of a message.
Yeah.
How do you make it stand out?
Yeah, and I think, also it's kind of transitioning your message. It used to be purely IT-focused, bits and bytes kind of message, right? And now it's a business message, and it's a solutions-focused message, and being able to transition, your messages to a business audience.
Great. And going back to a point we made earlier, thought leadership is a great way too.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that earlier, that thought leadership is a great way to differentiate, because you're using your people. And we all know they're very unique.
Yes, they are.
So Informatica has corporate offices in California.
Yes, they do.
You mentioned your CMO earlier. Your chief marketing officer is in California.
Yes.
You have a Beltway office here.
Yes.
And I'm going to assume that the marketing that goes on inside the ecosystem of the Beltway is different than what's going on in the offices in California. How are you managing that bridge of communication to show the differences and then do something that is effective? Yeah,
and I think that every corporation that may have a public sector vertical experiences these challenges. I would say at Informatica, I am quite lucky. Our CMO, Marge Brea, is very knowledgeable, very data-driven, so she understands the federal market, which is good. But in some cases, corporate offices do not whatsoever, and I find that they will often stay out of your way, right? Because they claim no knowledge or fear of marketing to the government. They say, oh my gosh, it's so different. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. So, we try to take the messages that corporate gives us, and I say, and federalize them, right? Gotcha. To make it appropriate. But what's important to me is, and I think I mentioned things like Market Connections and Deltek, having that vast amount of information is really important for me to educate, the market. Because my CMO will come back and say, well, Monique, someone in financial services or the healthcare did this marketing thing. Why don't you try it?
Right.
And I have to be able to eloquently explain why our market is different, and having those facts on how government reacts to marketing, at my fingertips is quite important.
Yes, and you mentioned earlier you have the digital natives and the digital never-bees.
Absolutely.
And in today's world, especially I think in the ecosystem that we're in Washington, D.C. specifically, we think everybody's a digital native, because that's all we do. And go on Beltway or 395 and you're watching people on their phones and you wish they weren't digital natives.
Exactly.
So So differentiating that and backing up with research is how you're able to prove your points.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that came out again of some research was how many government customers are actually tweeting, and it's not as many, of course, as in other industry verticals. So we have taken some heat on. I can't believe you don't tweet more and more and more and more, and do this, and we have to say, well. X% of
They're on Facebook.
They're on Facebook,
right.
Exactly. And so when you have that knowledge. And I would say that to all federal people or federal marketers that are listening, have that knowledge, have that data when you go to corporate, and they will stay out of your way.
That's good. We recently took a trip to San Jose and Silicon Valley to talk about the ecosystem, and it was a much more welcoming experience than I would have anticipated, because a lot of the marketing assets we talked about were quote-unquote traditional mediums.
Sure.
And my perception coming from DC going to California is they're going to be as cutting edge as you can get. And actually it was what you just said. It was what's working and where's our target and how can we reach them.
Absolutely.
So it was a great basic conversation. All right, so moving our conversation into disruptive technology. We have a lot that's impacting the marketplace. I would categorize social media as one of them. What do you see that's coming or that's becoming more and more useful that could benefit the federal marketer?
I like that question, and I have to say, when I think of disruptive, making an impact on marketing, my kind of initial gut is that disruption is more of a business approach, right, than a marketing approach. So it's kind of up to the products and services team to make your products more compelling, right, to disrupt the market. And then you take that compelling new stuff that your product marketing comes up with, and then apply your marketing campaigns towards that, right? So it could be in things such as like disruptive research, right? Or our product does this better than X product, right? And then you figure out marketing campaigns to get that disruptive information out there.
Gotcha.
But in terms of technology, I think I might have mentioned it before. Again, I don't say social again is becoming more new to, I think, federal markets. So really, I think those that are going to excel and do well are really going to find that new and innovative way through social media, and again, incorporating a little more video into the social.
So you're finding, video, we're seeing a lot of trends on video, and you do a self-audit and you notice what you're looking at. So you're seeing a lot more engagement via SOTA. Are your measurements showing that people are more engaged with a video message?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are doing, we call them brain sharks, which are short little PowerPoint video clips, which allow people to kind of learn your technology without feeling intruded upon, right? Yeah, we do chalk talks, quick chalk talks, so we can, again, focus it on if it's a business message or if it's a technical message. And through chalk talks, you can do, short demos, and then, of course, YouTube. So all of those things, I think, in incorporating in social media just engages the audience in a different manner.
What's interesting about what you said is, in your view of disruptive technologies, your priority is your product. Or your asset or your service, to say what is disruptive about that.
Absolutely.
And then let me pick the right marketing medium that's going to be able to communicate that, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Whether it's traditional, non-traditional, disruptive, undisruptive, attributable or not. That's what you're going with. So that's a good priority to have as we get caught up in these trends in marketing. So that's something good to keep in mind. So you've talked a lot about resources. So what do you use to stay on top? You've talked about Deltek, you've talked about Market Connections. What are some ways that you stay on top of these trends in marketing so you're up to speed and can communicate effectively and use what's useful for you?
Yeah, so great question again, Ralph. I really rely on people that have been in the industry and smarter and better than I am. Again, I think I mentioned we have a chief strategist whose job it is to be 12 to 18 months ahead, so I'm always picking her brain. I look at success from my peers, although they might not be federally focused. They could be selling to the healthcare market or financial services market. And so I'm always asking them what's working and what I can incorporate into my marketing campaigns. And then finally, I'm always reading and doing research, and it might not be a federally focused marketing book, but it's just marketing in general and making sure that I'm up to speed. Again, remember I told you I took a social media class. I attended a Serious Decisions Marketing Summit, which really just talks about all the tools that are out there to help you measure and implement your marketing campaigns and tactics.
That's great, because different than real estate or finance or insurance, we don't have continuing education.
Absolutely.
So it's all on us.
It is all on us.
So you have to educate yourself constantly.
Yeah.
You also said something interesting, Monique. You have a chief strategist who's staying in front of the game 12 to 18 months ahead. And I think applying that to federal marketing, that's a key point, to be able to say, what's this going to look like FY15? How are we going to look the next federal buying season? What does the landscape look like, and how can we anticipate that? Because you're developing content now.
You got it.
Some people that are in our audience may be vendors. I'm sure you have a lot of people contacting you and calling you and saying, I have the best marketing vehicle to help you achieve your needs.
Yeah.
What advice would you give the vendors out there of all these media choices on how they might be more helpful?
Yeah, so it's funny because I hung up on a vendor recently. That's not very nice. Where she started out saying, tell me about your business and, how can I help? And I was like, you know what, you need to do a little bit more research on my business. So, but I think for vendors that are out there, what's quite important to us, and I think we mentioned it and talked about it at length, is leads, right? And quality leads. And so what interests me is when a vendor comes to me and has new and innovative program that may not be saturated yet in the market, even if it's a trial, right? Or something, hey, we want to give this a shot. Those kind of things spark my interest. And then in addition, I think it's what's really key is being able to help segment the audience, right? So I tell a vendor, this is my product, this is my target audience, and they help me find that right market audience. Those are the kind of calls I'll take.
So come prepared. I mean, there's enough information out there to where any vendor that's reaching out to a federal marketer, you need to be prepared.
You need to be prepared and have some great, fun, new ideas.
Great. Well, that's great. Well, this has been a great conversation,
Thank you so
Monique.
much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I want to thank Monique Robinson at Informatica and our crew at Federal Marketing Insights. This has been Federal Marketing Insights.